Keepers up here in Amherst, New Hampshire. I'm going to give you a little demonstration on how to clean the Harman Advance pellet stove, and by coincidence most of the Harman machines actually use the same technique for cleaning and maintenance, so you can apply this to all of your machines. I'm going to use a pretty short list of tools today. We have a single socket driver and 3 sockets. It's a 3/8, 1/4 inch, 5/16. Also going to be using a old dirty paintbrush, flathead screwdriver. This should be all you need really to get most of the machine clean. I'm also going to be using this trusty shop vac. Highly recommend if you do this inside of your house, you get a shop vac that has a HEPA filter or a drywall filter, just so you're not blowing any fine particles around. I'm going to be doing this outside, so we're not worried about the filter. I'm going to start by doing the combustion chamber machine. We're assuming that you're all done with this for the season, so we hope that you've run your machine dry of pellets. There should be really no pellets left in the hopper. That's just to make sure that the pellets don't stay in the machine over the course of the spring and summer and early fall and absorb moisture. If they absorb moisture, they will expand, and they can just get stuck inside of the auger system. Start by using just a paintbrush. I'm going to leave the ash pan in, and then I'm going to wipe down the heat exchanger system. I'm going to try to get a lot of the loose material off and just knock it down so that we're not getting covered. You can see these are the heat exchangers, at the beginning of the heat exchangers. So I'm just going to take the paintbrush and get in here. If you're doing this in your house, you may want to just have the tip of your vacuum cleaner up here so that as you're brushing, you're actually sucking everything up. You don't need to use any type of a solvent or cleaner. This is really just knocking all the ashy material off. You see, it doesn't stick very well. The Advance has this cast iron plate. Some of the older models has a fibrous material. This really just protects the pellets and everything from getting warm from the combustion chamber. We're going to take this off, and you'll see the rest of the heat exchanger. You just give it a little bit of a lift. Pull out your trusty flame guide. See, the panel just drops down. There we go. Behind that cast plate, you have 4 panels. This really is what is hiding the remainder of the heat exchanger. There's this little rocker here. You swing it to one side, you can pull one plate off. Swing it to the other side. Second plate. And then there's 2 lower plates. Just gotta lift them up, they're sitting on little tabs. Just gotta grab it. One more. Alright, now you can see all exposed here. This is the rest of the heat exchanger system. So as the fire is happening, all of the material and the heat is pulled up and then back down behind those plates, and along with that some of the ash goes too. You can see the ash just sticks here a little bit. It's mostly from static electricity, so you're not going to need any kind of a cleaner to get that off. And back to my trusty old dirty paintbrush. Now that we've got most of the material knocked down, I'm going to pull out the ash pan. Most of the material should have ended up in there or around there. There you have it. Ash pan. And you can see where some of the other material ended up just around where the ash pan would be. Now I'm going to take out the trusty vacuum cleaner hose. What we're going to do is look at the burn pot here, and you can see that when you're burning the pellets, you get the mineral deposits that build up along the edges of the burn pot and along the bottom of the burn pot. You do want to dislodge these. You should be scraping your burn pot every 10 days or so with the tool that they provide to you, just to remove these. These will slow down the flow of pellets and then to some degree the airflow if they're covering the holes. So you just want to take those out. Next thing we're going to do is pop off the combustion fan cover here. Now, Harman did a good job of designing this. You don't need any special tools. All you have to do is rock this little arm up. Right there. Everything pops right off. Here's your combustion fan. And this right here is the port that all of the exhaust is forced out of. So that's a good idea to take your paintbrush and knock any of the ash off of this. And around here, and just get it in there. You don't want a whole lot of stuff building up on this. If yours is really sticky, a squirt of WD-40 or something, that'll fix that right up. And that should be that. Vacuum cleaner again. If you look into the exhaust, you can see right here there's a little probe. This is the exhaust sensing probe. This is connected directly to the computer inside of the machine. It measures the temperature of the exhaust all the time. So to get at this, the easiest thing to do is actually take off the body panels. This is where I'm going to use one of the 3 sockets that I pulled out. This is the 5/16 socket. It loosens the body panels. All the machines have these same type of attachments. The panels are just in different locations. But you just loosen them. You don't have to completely unscrew them. And then these are on tracks. And just slide right out the sides. There we go. People often ask, how do I get at this when the whole thing's attached to the pipe assembly? On the back of this right here, where these 3 bolts are, Harman has put what's called a quick disconnect flange. All you have to do is undo the bolts, which are held on there with the 3/8" socket. There's 3 of them. You just undo those, and then the flange stays connected to your existing pipe assembly. That allows you to turn the stove a little bit if you need better access to all of these parts. But really the only thing that you really need to get to is this guy here. This is where the 3rd socket comes in. This is the 1/4 inch. If you look at the way that the probe is put in, it's a single 1/4 inch screw that holds it in there. It's just a self-tapping screw. And then the probe just slides out all as one piece. Now, after a whole season of burning, expect this to be coated with a black material, ashy material. What you're going to want to do is take a wet cloth or some type of a cleaner and just get that wet and rub it right down so that it gets back to its original silver. And that should be good to go. Now, once you have this out, that's when you're going to take your opportunity to stick a brush through the guts of the machine. You can do this from the inside, and you can pull this probe out without disconnecting the entire pipe assembly. So if you have a relatively short pipe assembly, you could just pull out the probe and then stick a brush in from the front side and brush all the remaining material out to the outside. If you have a clean out tee, it's a good idea to remove the stove and move it out of the way so that you can use the clean out and then push a brush through. But this is critical. This is something you're definitely going to want to do every year. And depending on how much pellets you burn, you may want to do that in the middle of the season as well. It just allows the machine to run at its best. To do back here is inspect the fans. You have 2 fans. They'll collect dust bunnies. The hair and things will get sucked towards the machine, and they'll just find themselves camping around the fans. So it's not a bad idea to take your vacuum cleaner and vacuum out the surface of the fans or inside of the fans to ensure that there's nothing in there that's going to slow them down or lower their efficiency. You don't have to oil anything. You don't have to grease anything. You don't have to actually pull any of the motors out. So a good inspection of any materials that have built up, like is dust bunny here. And then take a look at this. This is where the air for the combustion comes into the machine. You want to inspect this butterfly valve to make sure that it moves freely. Just in case you do suck any dog hair or anything into it, it can keep that valve from opening and closing freely. So I'm going to take my vacuum to these fans.